it's the Dibie Award after George Dibie, and I'd just like to memorialize him by playing a little video of when he received the first service award. Well, we didn't call it the Dibie Award then. We called it the DCS Service Award. It was given to George for his, tireless work educating the entertainment industry about motion picture lighting.
The reason I've done that for all these years, I'll give you the story. At Paramount one day, I was set lighting technician now, electrical at that time. After I finished college, that's I went. I was asking the gaffer and the cameraman one day, why they are using in one area where the actor was looking that way, they put the key where he is looking. The next time they did something else and it was the opposite side. I was asking why, what happened, And you know what happened to me the next day? I wasn't there. They don't want a guy to ask questions. So I said to myself, this is a true story. One day when I become somebody, cameraman, let's say, or a gaffer, which before cameraman, I will never ask anybody, or anybody who asks me a question, tell him to go home the next day. So I went backward and I said, I want to educate everybody. Students from all over the country, cinema students, advanced cinema students. So thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Thank you, guys.
Well, George, besides being committed to educating the industry, especially about lighting, George was also very big on inclusion and letting a lot of people in. He opened up the union. That's when a lot of us got into Local 600 when he was the president. And we have Nancy Schreiber, ASC, is going to receive the Dibie Award, named after George this year. And part of the reason, she's an excellent cinematographer, but she's also very dedicated to rising up people and inclusion and helping to make the job of cinematographer available to more women. She came up at a very difficult time to be a woman. She was the fourth to be admitted into the ASC, and she's been tremendously successful, and she's trying to help other people to follow that path. So that's one of the reasons that she was chosen. Some of her notable credits are November, Celluloid Closet, Chain of Desire, and she's recently been shooting the popular TV show P-Valley, The Rookie Feds, The Comeback, and Loverboy. And I think it's appropriate that this is a lighting event that we honor Nancy because she came up as a gaffer. So can you tell us your career story?
Okay, well, first I came from Detroit, Michigan. I went to University of Michigan, psychology degree. Very useful. But I knew I was too active to be sitting on my butt all day as a therapist. So I moved to New York. I followed some guy there, my boyfriend at the time. He went back to Ann Arbor to law school, and I stayed, answered an ad in the Village Voice. I'd been making Super 8 films in Ann Arbor with friends. It was a big experimental community, and I thought, this is great, this is fun, but I never went to film school. So I answered an ad in the Village Voice. I got hired. It was like $50 a week, including the use of a van, which was owned by my friends, which I had to drive through, if anybody knows New York, through the Midtown Tunnel with this van. It was really scary. But I got through that, and then pre-pro, I just learned the city. It was great, helped wardrobe, costumes. I mean, they were under budgeted, but it was a 35 millimeter film that was released. And when production happened, they were so undercrewed, somehow I ended up in the electric department. I didn't know anything, but I had a photography background. My mother had been an art dealer. I had also, I was just a long-time museum goer, and stills, a lot of stills, and somehow I found that it was all about the light. Now, I didn't know anything about the electricity, but I learned, and I have a couple funny stories, but we might talk about it if we have time.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But I just earned while I learned, and worked my way up from electric to best boy to gaffer, and I did a whole range of narrative and commercials. Manhattan was really big on commercials in those days, and documentaries. And I made some really close friends in the documentary world who kind of kicked me out of the nest. My friend Mark Obenhaus loaned me his Eclair in those days, and then I had been an electrician for Bobby V, who started Film Trucks, and also that was like the first mobile unit. It was Cinelease, those people.
And you mentioned New York, and you're still bi-coastal, right?
More or less, yeah. I still have my rent-stabilized place there. I'm very careful, so I still go there. And so what happened was Bobby loaned me lights, and I had a camera, and I filmed a lot of Columbia University students' films because they don't have a cinematography program like NYU did. And while I was there, I belonged to a union called NABIT 15. Nobody could get into the IA back then, and we were like the young hip people, and we were taking New York by storm. And within that union, I was able to bump up to DP. So I started shooting, and then it was impossible. But I made my own documentary because that's where the few women that were shooting were employed, and yet I had to crawl my way back into the narrative world, into feature films, into shorts, whatever it was. But I
And
really,
when George opened up the IA,
yeah,
that's when
and
you
then
joined?
George did. Well,
Late 90s,
actually,
right?
local 644 and NABIT merged. It was a hard time for the unions. Reagan was president. Not to get political, but a lot of union busting. And so then from there, George opened up, and then 600 was born. And yeah, it's good. It's really been a wonderful path.
And you had a couple George stories, right?
I do. Well, first of all, if anybody knew George, he called everybody sexy, right? Right. And, first it was like, who's this guy? But, I came out of New York, and then when I started spending more time and working out here, he was our president. And he was like the most kind, giving, funny person. He had a great sense of humor. And I really have to say, he did so much for people coming up. I mean, I'm really, truly honored. First, DCS, I love you guys, Charlene and Jim, 20 years.
Thank you.
And to be given this award because George was tireless about making sure that we of the ASC did these panels and going, to the various schools or having the schools at the ASC. And I'm really grateful that he really set the example for all of us.
Now, I know that you're very keen on bringing up your colleagues.
Yep.
Could I call them protégés?
Sure.
Tell us about that.
Well, first of all, there's some crew members I see. Mitch Gilbin, he gripped for me a long time ago. I mean, there are people here, but I'm still, to this day, begging people to come work with me on my labors of love. I still like
You do a lot of that,
doing, helping
things you're passionate
whatever
about.
it is. And I just did a dance film on Thursday, Dodging the Weather, and where's Dana Kinsky came out as one of the cinematographers, and Larry Parker, who we know had introduced me to a young cinematographer in Orange County who doesn't have all the access to LA County, and he came out. And then my ASC mentee from last year, who I still bring everywhere, even though she was last year's mentee, came out and shot for me on Thursday. And it was a beautiful dance film for a young Colombian dancer choreographer. So I'm still begging and borrowing gear. And I really also want to thank the vendors that are here. There are many who really, without you all, we are nothing. Truly, you know. And we've all transitioned with the times. Oh, there's John Crutch, who, you know, from Airy Lighting Days.
I think he's finally retired now.
Yeah, maybe. And Stefan
got
was
the-
here.
he got
from
the award last
Airy.
year.
I know. I'm so grateful to be following in your footsteps. And Stefan was here from Airy, and I've just seen a lot of people. I saw Dave Frederick, who was my camera assistant and then my Steadicam operator for a long time, and he's got a new VFX company. So we're still here. And in fact, Marianne, I said, God, her voice sounds so familiar. She used to be at Aton, and my first
That's
camera
right.
was an Aton. So
Now, Women in Media is here, and I understand you're on the board
I am.
of directors.
Yep.
So that's another group you're helping out, and you've always been there for DCS. And is there anything that you want to add before we bestow the
Oh,
award?
my goodness. I have a funny story. I was just telling somebody about my Aton. So do you all know what an Aton was? So back in the day, that Claire that I borrowed,
NPR.
NPR, exactly, it was heavy. But it was balanced, unlike some of the digital cameras we've had to work with. But this genius, Boviala, made the smallest motor for the NPR called Alcan. Well, he left and he started Aton. And all of us New Yorkers bought them. The manual had like a cat on your shoulder, and that's what the camera was like.
Yeah, wrapped around your shoulder. Yeah,
It
the ACL.
does. And the mine was a LTR.
Oh, LTR, yes.
Yeah, and so some of you know Abel Cine. Well, the brothers, right?
They
Pete-
brought those to the U.S., right?
Right, and actually Les Zellin of Cook is who we all bought ours from. He was Aton in those days.
Right.
So there was a very well-known documentary cinematographer, filmmaker, Al Maisels. The Maisels brothers did Gimme Shelter, Grey Gardens, and Al had an Aton, and he taught all of us New York DPs who had them to go down to Canal Street and get a little piece of tubing and punch a hole in the rubber eye cup, put a little grommet there, and then, you know, there was a lot of moisture, and you couldn't, like these days, take your eye off the eyepiece because it would fog the film. And so he told us to get these little suck tubes, and we did. If, you know, we're shooting and we can't see our own focus, which documentaries, you don't have focus pullers, and you would suck out. So I've just donated my camera to the ASC, and if you're ever there, when you walk in, it's the case on your right, and it still has a little suck tube there.
All right, David, do we have this award? So now, without further ado, I would like to present to Nancy Schreiber, ASC, the DCS Dibie Award. I'm going to read it. DCS Dibie Award presented to Nancy Schreiber, ASC, by the Digital Cinema Society in grateful recognition of service to the entertainment community, advocating for equality and leading by example. February 10th, 2024.
Wow, I mean, this means so much to me, Jim. I just really appreciate
So
you.
well deserved.
And all of you. I mean, I know a lot of you out there, and I don't know some of you, but I hope I will meet you all. And we just have to keep going. It's been a couple rough years. I was thinking with my psychology degree, I could start some groups for people that want to talk about how we're going to survive and how not to fall into depression, addiction, all that. So I may use that psychology degree if it keeps being this slow out there. Who knows? But I do have hope that it's going to be a great future for everyone sitting here, and we're going to get back to work. Some of us already are.
Thank
so.
you. Let's hear it for Nancy. Let's turn it around and we'll pose for the corny pictures.
Oh.